Welcome to my set of tutorials on mastering MLflow for GenAI. All in all, I have about 9 guided tutorials that actually give you the ability to start from setup all the way to doing tracing and tracking experiments, doing offline evaluation and looking at the agent matrix, and all the way down to deployment. So let's look into each and every tutorial and what is it that actually gives you and why you actually want to use those tutorials. Now, you can actually follow those tutorials by starting from 1 all the way to the end, or if you're already familiar with MLflow, just go to the tutorial that you think you actually want to learn about and then go dive into it. Okay, so the first 2 tutorials, the first one sets up the environment for you to get started. This involves installing the right packages, configuring it so that you can actually set your credentials in the .env local file. So if you're using OpenAI or OpenAI keys, this is where you actually put that thing. And then we'll go through the first track, run. And run is an important concept in MLflow that gives you the ability to actually run associated with experiment. And then how to use the MLflow basic AI if you're not used to it. The second tutorial is built on the first one that gives you the ability to track some parameters, log some parameters, do some model comparison, try a couple of LLMs to see what the cost optimizations are. You might not want to use the largest model, you might want to use a small model, and that allows you to do that. And you can have tags associated with those experiments so you can actually do some searching. And then we'll see how you can actually establish parent and child runs, because you might have a hierarchy of runs where a parent is the top level run and the children are the low level runs that you actually might have. So this gives you an ability to look into the hierarchy of runs. The third and the fourth notebook are quite central to the agent evaluation. Observability tracing is an important part of an agentic workflow. Any agent that's going to accomplish a task will go through a series of operations that you're going to perform. It might be talking to a web server. It might be calling certain tools. It might be talking to another agent. It might be doing some local computation. So all those are a way for you to look into that. And those comes with tracing. And MLflow has an ability to do some auto tracing, as well as the ability for you to do some manual tracing. So the notebook 3 and 4 gives you really an advanced way of looking at how you can actually structure your agents so that everything is actually tracked. And then you can actually look at the dashboard to see what agents did what and where, what calls were called, how long did it actually take the agent to call some, what were the latencies, or was there any anomalies. These 2 tutorials sort of gives you an ability to really look into how you can actually use the MLflow APIs to be able to capture those traces and then use the MLflow GUI to actually look into those observability dashboard. Now, prompt management is an important bit, right? If you've been using LLM, you know that you have to give a particular prompt. You have to be precise with a particular prompt. You have to put the guidelines in the particular prompt. If you're using LLM-as-a-Judge, you want to give directions to the judge how to actually evaluate your thing. So this is an important bit where you use prompt registry to be able to create templates. You can be able to version the prompts. You can register and search prompts and then link those prompts with an experiment. So prompt registry is an important component in MLflow, which you can actually use to track all that. The other part is the integrations with all this external framework. MLflow has about 30 plus integration with common agentic workflow, agentic building frameworks that you have. You can use any one of these particular frameworks and use the tracing ability to trace your agent's operations as it's trying to accomplish a particular task. So we'll look into how you can actually use the ability of LangChain to create chains and workflows, and how you can use Llama Index to create a RAG. So that will be sort of a good example for you to get an idea of how you can use external agent frameworks along with MLflow to be able to do the tracing and observability. And then finally, evaluating agents. Now, this is probably the most important tutorial that you actually have that will have built all the way from 1 to the 5th, so the 7th one. And here you look into different ways you can actually look at evaluate an agent. LLM-as-a-Judge is an important design pattern for evaluating judges. And then you have a built-in scorers that can give you the ability to look at the relevance of your queries. You can look at the correctness of the queries. You can have guidelines, built-in judges that you can actually give guidelines to see how a judge should evaluate a particular agent. And all these are built-in 70 plus scores that gives you this arsenal of metrics that you can actually look into it. You can write custom scores, and custom scores are where the subject matter expert can actually write its own evaluation metrics to judge how a particular agent task will be performed and how the behavior is determined, because not all built-in judges will actually have the behavior. So the subject matter expert might be something that you actually use to create custom judges. And then we'll look into the 7th tutorial whereby you can actually use the third-party integration scores that gives you a session-level evaluation of that. And then finally, last but not least, prompt optimization is an important part of your entire agentic development cycle. You might want to optimize a particular prompt. You create a baseline of a particular prompt. You register in the prompt registry and then use the GEPA algorithm to optimize that prompt so you actually get the best result of the output. And this is an important part of it. And then finally, we'll end with a complete RAG application for end-to-end, that everything you have learned so far from the start all the way to the 7th, you can actually incorporate in that. So that gives you an entire set of tutorials, guided tutorials, starting from 1 all the way to the end. And you can look at those tutorials, you can download those tutorials, or you can clone this particular URL and start looking at it. So we'll go into the first tutorial in the next video. Thank you.